Well, I got done with doing the first part of the blackboards. Another LED Spike Factory W. Wait, Factory. Factory. You know, I could play a Factory game right now. But what game? Oh yeah, that's right, that one. I've been wanting to make a Factorio video for a long time now, but I've always thought about what the topic of it should be. This was originally going to be a weapon ranking video, and before that I had ideas for a multiplayer video, and now it's a multiplayer video with randoms. Since I've seen some discussions on Reddit about what it's like to play Factorio with randoms, nobody's ever talked about what it's like to play Factorio with randoms. So I decided, you know, screw it, that should be me. I'm going to talk about playing Factorio with randoms. So naturally, I did what a person would. Made a new world, called it Factorioing it for YouTube, and started. By the way, no, I did not tweak any of the settings, they are the default ones. And also, if you're wondering why my username is The Salvage Gamer, that was my old username before I decided to start going by my actual name, the LED Spike Factory. Although that technically isn't my actual name, I technically have a model name, but let's just get back to the thing. Something to note is that I have not played Factorio in a good while, at least not since the Space Age update, so I don't really know what they changed, but I do know the basic settings. So I started like I always do, get some burner equipment, get some basic things, and try to rush for electricity, because let's be real, nobody likes using burner stuff. I also set 2 smelter arrays, one for iron, one for copper. By the way, fun fact, those aren't my smelter arrays, I stole them from someone. Not like they care. Unfortunately, I decided that it would be a good idea to set more iron arrays because I was going to do the smelter, so I stuck with slow production. At some point it got so bad that I just went AFK while the things got done. By the way, this is what it looks like when I go AFK. I set 4 belts and just sit there, usually with an auto clicker on so I don't get disconnected for going AFK. Afterward, I made a bunch of ghost belts to start up automated electricity and just kind of sat there while the belts got made. Nothing much. Though afterward, the first random joined, and this guy would end up proving to be a great help. So give a big shout for PP Vale. Yes, that's his actual name. I gave basic greetings, told him to work on the smelter array, and afterward I began to set ghost electric mining drills for my mining array. Pretty cool. After I got done setting up all the ghost ones, I set up the first real electric mining drill near the coal production so we could get some automated coal up. Yes, I still had not made the belts at this point. Sue me. By the time I got done setting up all the ghost belts, PP Vale had already gotten done constructing a good part of the iron production. I sat there for a bit, admired some of his hard work, and then stole some of the iron because I had to go finish up power production. And after that, I checked on the main smelter array to figure out he had gotten construction done on a lot of things, and even laid out some blueprints of things yet to come, like circuits and copper wires. Very impressive, I'll say. So afterward, nothing really special happened. I mostly worked on improving the mining arrays, PP Vale automated red science, and from there nothing much happened. So I'll just fast forward till we get to the second random that joined. That being XX Senpai XX. Now if I were to describe Senpai in any way, I'd describe Senpai as an old man who forgot to take his dementia medication. You know, because he has dementia. Throughout the entire game, he would just wander and wander and wander and keep on wandering. Just not building anything, just walking. Now this is actually a good thing because it gives us intel of the land and more importantly, how close the biters are to us. For those of you who don't know, the biters are your main ops on Novice. They're not as bad as the floaters, but they're pretty close. However, very quickly after him, another new member joined him, that being Sourceless. Now I'd say Sourceless is a pretty middle of the road teammate in my opinion. He didn't do anything very major like PP Vale did, but he also wasn't stuck wandering around like Senpai was. After Sourceless joined, we mostly did some menial tasks, and we finally got labs up and running, allowing us to research a ton of new technologies. I did have one lab, but that was more of a prototype, just there to give me basic tech, not like this. So then I queued a bunch of things to be researched. PP Vale asked for more iron, I got more iron, and you know, I'm gonna stop calling that, just gonna start calling it Vale because I'm afraid if I say that too much times I'm gonna get demonetized. So I wait, Vale research logistics sites and moved it up in the queue, allowing us to get that. By the time we got that, Vale had already got the stuff to automate it. Very impressive, Vale, very impressive. And if that sounds sarcastic, just know it wasn't. I am very impressed. Good job, Vale, if you ever see this video. After that, I got a few more basic stuff done and decided to call it quits for the day, thus ending day 1. On to day 2. Day 2, in my opinion, went a lot worse than day 1. Well, not a lot worse, but it was generally worse. I'll say the one thing that did go better was the amount of time it took someone to join. It took way less time than yesterday. The new one being Omnipotent Meth Deity. What a great name. After he joined, we spent a good few minutes screwing around trying to get steel production up and running, but we did eventually. Though sadly, Omnipotent Meth Deity had to go, making him the first member of whatever this is to leave mid-game without me disconnecting. Since, by the way, if the host disconnects, everyone is forced to disconnect. After he left, I looked through the tech tree, got brick production started up, or at least the blueprints, and another new member joined, that being Nero007. So I'm just gonna call him Neo. He did also ask me some questions about Factorio, mostly how far I gotten, and for reference I've gone to production and utility sites but never actually beaten the game, at least back when Space Age wasn't a thing. After that we did some menial tasks around the factory and I got a car, which I then used to crash straight into a tree, and then another tree, and then another tree. Luckily the trees in this game do no damage to your car. So unrealistic, man. I mostly did this to fill out the blank spots in the map, though after I got done I bricked the entire map, or mostly filled up my base with a bunch of bricks since they make you move faster, and then I decided to call it quits for this time round. This isn't the end of day 2 as I did get on one last time, but it really went nowhere. All this really amounted to was me getting sulfur up and expanding the petroleum fuel production. That's really about it. Well, that's day 2 done. On to day 3. Wait, actually, before I move on to day 3, I'm gonna do like the end condition of this video. Just gonna tell you, the end condition is when I launch a satellite into space, when I will have beaten the main game of Factorio. Of course, I know space exploration has a different ending, but I want to get this video out in a timely manner, and I don't want it to be as long as the Black Porter video. Anyways, now on to day 3. Day 3 was one of the days of all time. I started by clearing out some belts I meant to take down yesterday, and then driving around the perimeter of my base, specifically toward the pollution to see how close the biters were. While I was doing this, and after I got back, I had queued a bunch of things using the first 2 science packs, and at some point I ran out. So I began to work on the military science production. While I was working on that, another new person joined. His name, Skullpoles. Now in my opinion, Skullpoles is one of the most useful teammates I've had so far, right next to Vale. But for different reasons, you'll see later. He joined, he became blue, I went AFK to do something else while he worked on, and then I came back. After that I got to work on piercing rounds. However, he took some of the normal rounds for himself for a project. I call this project Biter Extermination. His goal, terminate every biter nest currently on the map. Though at some point during it, I left to go continue military science while he continued exterminating the biter population. While I was doing that, I discovered a chest he had made of normal ammo, a stockpile of it. So I immediately dumped that on the normal ammo manufacturing machines and the piercing rounds ones. I then set up a chest to create a piercing ammo stockpile for the same purpose as the normal ammo, just better effectiveness. I then set up the assembly machines needed for grenades as well as the ones needed for military science, and I began to make belts to them, which way longer than it should have, because I was just stumped trying to rework the belt to fit. But I did. But also on a side tangent, I hate the use of the word rework, because they use the word rework for any change. Like if what the examples being Titan Noob, I saw a thumbnail that said Titan Noob got a rework, and it's like, no. A rework implies that the tower functions completely differently from how it did. A buff, which is what it actually got, means the tower is the same, he just got a few changes. But anyway, back to the point, while Skullpoles was continuing his final solution to fix the biter population, I had gotten military sites up and running. After that, I researched flamethrower tech, got flamethrower tech, made flamethrower fuel, used it to burn down local forests because they were getting in the way of my buildings, and I also expanded the power grid. And with that, this day comes to an end. Fighters are gone and the factory is safer than ever with military sites. Anyways, on to day 4. Day 4. Oh man, where do I even begin with day 4? I'm not saying it was bad, no, it's probably the best day we've had so far. As I was working on chemical science, the first of many new members joined, because this day we had the most amount of members out of any time this server has been up. This new member being Fish AI01, who I'm just gonna be calling Fish because it sounds funny. Now, something to note about our good man Fish is that he always spoke in emoticons, like, you know, but that did not stop his productiveness, and he was a good member of the factory. We'll see that later though. Then, just as I got chem science done and on the belts, another new member joined, that being Bill Nye 01. I'm gonna call him Bill Nye. I then went up and set up some blueprints for a coal mine, but not before committing a few deforestation with the flamethrower. Seriously, the flamethrower is the best weapon for removing large groups of trees. In fact, that's probably why they made an achievement for burning down trees, to encourage you, push in the right direction. After that, I queued some more research, this one being chemical science, and another new member joined, this one being Gavin B, who I will be calling Gavin. After that, Bill and I helped me reconfigure some belts, and I got the achievement Research with Chemical Science, which, by the way, I have done before, just these achievements were made after Space Age updates, so it didn't count back then. However, I then had to do something in real life, so I went AFK for a bit. When I came back, they had made construction bots. I then got an idea. A wonderful idea. An awful idea. I got a wonderfully awful idea. But on the note of referencing a Christmas special, yes, this is your Christmas special for this year. Back to the idea, I got a couple of stone bricks in my inventory, maxed my space out to the max, went to ghost mode and began laying down hundreds upon hundreds upon hundreds of bricks. I then set up a chest next to the brick production lines and got a stack inserter to put them all in a logistic chest, so that way the bots would have a supply of them. Then I noticed something. The power was low. So I immediately began to work setting up another steam engine array. I put down the boilers, the pipes, and the power lines because everything else can be put down by the bots. There's somewhere that makes those things. Yes, I did have to make a bunch of roboports because the network didn't extend that far, but once I did, I got it all running. However, while that was going on, another new member joined, that being the Silverhawk 10. He was a pretty cool member, he did some cool things, but he was mostly just another chill member who helped around the factory, nothing much. Anyways, I kept working on the power supply, got some of the roboports down, built another stone mining thing cause the amount of stone we were getting was getting low, and sadly, Bill Nye was dropped from the game. He didn't leave on his own, the game forced him to leave. However, after he was disconnected, another member joined, this one being the first returning member, and who else but the legend himself, Vale. Vale had returned and he was back with a vengeance. I then built more roboports and began to work on the line for the coal production. Yeah, remember that coal production line I made the blueprints for way earlier? Yeah, now I was actually gonna build it. And actually, because I didn't want to build it myself, I had set up roboports as I went so that way they could build the lines for me. While that was getting done, yet another new member joined, that being Takanaki. I probably mispronounced that, but hey, I don't care, neither does he probably. After he joined, I answered a few questions and then set up the coal lines completely. It would take a while for the coal to get there, but it would get there, and just in time too, as we were in a dire coal shortage. I would say this is a low point of the factory, but be real, this was probably the lowest point of the factory. Pretty much nothing was getting made. Mostly copper wasn't getting made, and iron was still going well, but yeah, it still wasn't a good point in the factory. Then, since Christmas was coming, we all said Merry Christmas, and then another new member joined, that being Mzor, however you pronounce that. I then set up production lines for repair packs and stone furnaces so we could get some upgrades and repair anything if it ever got damaged. However, at this point I began to notice that Jingle Bells was playing, which is not something in the Factorio OST, that was completely new. Walked around for a bit more, and eventually Takashi said joined the party while also sending his coordinates. I clicked where that was, and then I saw this. So I went over myself, made a belt, and began to observe. This thing that had been built by Muga 1 showed a bunch of images, those being a bunch of lanterns spelling 2026 and an animation of a dancing penguin. He then sent 2 more images, or blueprints to make those images, one of Crabbrave and one which I can't show or else this video isn't going to be shown to anyone. I then went back to the party, made red belts because I'm the leader and the owner of this server, so I'm the most important, and just began to spin around a bit more. Then Takashi, along with Fish, found uranium for future power use later. But actually not Takashi, it was Trimble. Takashi then asked me for the name of my YouTube channel. I gave it, and he was, I think, impressed, though he questioned my lack of Factorio videos and said I need to fix it, which I have, because, well, you know, you're watching this one. And then we had our first player death. Trimical had been terminated by a medium biter, marking this as the first instance of player termination. And no, I don't count self-player termination or player-on-player termination. Although surprisingly that hadn't happened yet. I then looked at the blueprints one last time, gave an overview of the factory, and then left. Day 4 was probably the best day so far. We got a lot done and we had a big old party. That was cool. Anyways, now on to day 5, which I'm hoping will be the final day. Day 5, in my opinion, was probably one of the worst days in this entire series. Mostly because no one joined. It was just me. Started by getting up some basic things, increasing production, researching some things. Then I began to make belts to make red belts. You'll see what that means later. I also began to make some belts to try and make fast inserters. Unfortunately, it did take a while because I had done something I call spaghettiing myself into a corner. Basically, when I lay out the belts in such a way that rearranging them is a pain. I then rearranged some more belts and then at some point went AFK because I had to do something else. This is the first time this will happen though. I mean, granted, it's not the first time it's happened in this playthrough, but it is the first time it happens multiple times in one run. Well, not one run, I should say one day. But anyways, back to it. I then set up some more roboports to begin working on processing units, and then I set up even more stole production since our old one was lackluster and only was a temporary solution. I then set up yet even more belts, did some things with the splitters because they were screwing up my copper production, and then I researched the rocket silo. Once that was complete, I ended it for today, and now it's on to day 5 part 2, one of the few times this actually happened. The only other one was day 2, and it didn't last for nearly as long as this one did. For my next run, I set up concrete production and then had an awful idea, an even more awful one than the stone bricks. Basically, I was going to take all that hard work I did with the stone bricks and completely throw it in the trash because I was going to replace it all with the concrete. The reason for this is because laying down concrete boosts your mod speed even more than laying down stone bricks, but I'm not sure if it was worth it or not. Either way, I did it. I then set up even more roboports and finally got the theme for red belts, red underground belts, and red splitters done. Finally, we had done that after I was gonna do it the previous playthrough, but I did. And by the way, previous playthrough in this case is referring to the previous run, like day 5 part 1. I then made some power armor and began to make these for it. A bunch of personal batteries, a bunch of solar panels, and some shield thingies. I then spammed the upgrade player to upgrade a bunch of the yellow belts into red belts. I then went off in my car to terminate some biters as I just got the power armor, so I was gonna use it. And while we're doing this, I'm going to use this as an example for just how powerful the flamethrower is. I mean, just look at this. Look at how fast that big biter ceased to exist. Just look at this. Look at how fast. It's a massacre. So yeah, flamethrower OP, as soon as you get the recipe, automate it. You don't even need that much, just automate one, and you should have enough. But anyways, once I got done with that, I went AFK again, because once again, I had to do something else. And when I came back, I worked on some things for Rocket Fuel, and then went AFK again, as I had completed the other thing I had to do. I more just quickly went back to this to get that done, and then just went back to the other thing I had to do. Sound confusing? Good. But before that, I had built a rocket silo, and just like with the BT-6 blackboards, I could see it, the light, the end. I could see the horizon, and it looked beautiful. Once I got done with my second AFKing, I went back to the rocket thing and put more of its parts into it to begin working on that. Well, I stole some copper wires to get work on the foundation of the space platform. And I was mostly just working on the space platform starter kit and working on rocket parts, though I had not known that the second bar was used for the extra rocket I had already completed, so I could have beat this a lot sooner. But then it was done. I put the thingy into it. I named the platform the spiky platform, and then I sent it. And with that, I had beaten Factorio with randoms in under 16 hours, so I got an achievement for it. Well, multiple achievements, but I got the no time for chit chat. Nice. But with that, this concludes the Factorio with randoms video. Shout out to everyone that had helped me with this video. I truly appreciate you guys' support if you watch this video. And by the way, audience, if you want to see me continue this into space, let me know in the comments section. But till then, until the next video, goodbye.